Haddenham lies to the west of the Chilterns, between Aylesbury and Thame. At the last census in 2011, the population was just over 4,500. The local myth says it was the largest village in England. Well, that's certainly debatable, but it's definitely a village that's growing year by year. The name Haddenham is commonly thought to originate from Hadda's homestead. Hadda was the leader of a Saxon tribe who were pushed south after a defeat in a battle near Luton in 571 AD and settled in this area. The oldest building in the village is the Church of St Mary the Virgin. It was built in the 13th century, possibly on the site of an earlier church, recorded in the Domesday Book. The oldest dwelling is Church Farmhouse. The current house was built in the 14th century, but again on older 11th century foundations, of what was possibly once a priest's house for the monastery of Rochester. At the other side of the church stands Manor Farm, farmed for over 50 years by Tom Bucknell. Its tithe barn has a spectacular 15th century vaulted roof. Many of the buildings to the north of the church were destroyed in several fires during the 18th century. In 1760, the Great Fire of Haddenham destroyed many properties, including the vicarage, with all the parish records. Where houses are currently being renovated, you can see where some of the walls and roofs were rebuilt after the fire. Many of the old business premises have now been converted into attractive family dwellings. The traditional building material is witchet, the local subsoil made up of decayed limestone. Haddenham is one of only 3 witchet villages in the country. It's mixed with water, straw and other materials to bind it, then it's laid on a rough stone foundation set into the ground called grumplings. The mixture is then laid in layers called berries. Each one is allowed to partly dry and then flattened with a spade before the next one's applied. It's essential that the top is kept waterproof. Originally the tops were thatched. Later, more durable red clay tiles were used. 2 of the other churches in the village are both uniquely built of witchet. The Methodist Chapel in High Street is claimed to be the tallest building made of witchet. The south side wall had to be repaired after it collapsed in 2001. The widest building is said to be the Baptist Church in Stockwell, built in 1809. And in contrast, there's the modern Catholic Church, only a short distance away in the croft at the end of Stockwell. It's gratifying to see that even in modern developments, the unique character of the village is retained by using modern witchet-style walls. Haddenham Museum has its home in the old schoolroom behind the Methodist Church. It's crammed with artefacts and documents showing in graphic detail the history of the village. Many old village traditions are still celebrated. This is the May Day Festival, which takes place on the first Saturday in May on Church End Green. Here the May Queen is crowned, followed by a procession around the village.
Sort of vaguely watch the dancing from here. We sit to the side.
Are you dancing for long?
Yes, that's the trouble, isn't it?
We were busy preparing cake.
At the end of the summer, the Haddenham Feast is celebrated, on or just after the 19th of September. There's an open-air service on the Sunday and a fair on Church End Green on the Monday. It celebrates the Nativity of St Mary, to whom the church is dedicated. And it was the high spot of the year for farm workers, as they were only given 1 day a year's holiday. This was their only holiday, apart from Christmas Day. Haddenham is well served with many local amenities. As well as 3 schools, we have a very busy health centre with its attached chemist. There's a wide range of shops at Banks Parade. A busy post office in Churchway, and a specialist butcher's and charcuterie run by local couple Ricky and his wife Emily. We now have only 3 pubs left in the village. Recently refurbished and selling locally brewed ales is the Rising Sun. The King's Head thrives hidden away at the end of the High Street. The old Green Dragon, once the home of the manorial court, is now a restaurant, and the Rose and Thistle provides Chinese food. The old Crown at Fort End has long been an Indian restaurant. Thankfully, the facade of the picturesque Red Lion on the green has been saved as a private house, with others being built behind in the old car park. Haddenham was well known for breeding its famous Aylesbury ducks. 5 of the old ponds still survive. As well as this one and Ponny, there's a smaller one at Banks Parade, another at the end of Rudd's Lane, and there's the remains of Tax Pond in Stokes Croft. The sports field, floodlit tennis courts and children's play area are popular facilities. We're now well served with coffee shops and cafes. As well as the popular Little Italy cafes at Fort End and the station, there's Tickety Brew on the Parade, and a new cafe and restaurant at Bradmore Farm, also selling a large selection of local produce. The garden centre on Stanbridge Road not only sells a huge range of plants, gadgets and garden equipment, but has become a regular gathering place for villagers in its popular cafe. The Great Western Railway first came to Haddenham in 1906. The original station was closed in the Beeching era, but a new station was built just slightly further to the west and opened in 1987. This new rail link began a new transformation of Haddenham. Chiltern Railways now provides a well-used regular service to London and to Birmingham, with a new service recently opened to Oxford. 3 bus companies serve the area, with a local route around the villages to Aylesbury provided by Red Line. Red Rose provides a longer route going out to Wadston and Bicester, and there's the 280 Arriva service from Oxford to Aylesbury. But this improved ability to easily commute has brought its own problems. Although the station has extended its parking area, many drivers are choosing to park on nearby roads, causing annoyance to residents and constricting traffic flow. This new access to Haddenham has also meant a huge expansion of businesses. Many have moved onto the old airfield site. The airfield was opened in 1936, intended to be Aylesbury Airport. However, this business failed, but during the war it became RAF Tame and the home of No. 1 Glider Training School. After the war it was briefly used for motorcycle racing, and the first meeting had crowds in excess of 40,000, and there were plans for it to become Britain's premier racing venue. However, the villagers were not as keen as the organisers, and after 4 meetings in 1949, no others were held. One of the first businesses on the site was Airtech, who specialised in converting wartime aircraft into peacetime roles. The spice company McCormick built its UK headquarters here in the 90s and was quickly followed by the many different businesses that now occupy the site. Luckily, a new link road to the A418 has meant that heavy commercial traffic can avoid the village roads. Of course, all these new businesses need people and people need housing. A massive house building programme is taking place, and a whole new community has grown up on the airfield. A recent neighbourhood plan agreed by the village in 2014 suggested that around 430 new homes would be built between now and 2033. A court case led to this being increased by over 200. However, a draft Vale of Aylesbury plan, published in 2016, increases the number to 1,065, with the possibility that it could even be 4,500 if they decide on a new settlement in either Haddenham or Winslow. This plan is due to be finalised in the spring of 2017. Haddenham has constantly undergone change ever since Hadder first settled here over 1,000 years ago, but growth on this incremental scale could have an impact that may change the essential village character that luckily still remains in Haddenham.